Although the Haganah won freedom for Israel from the British Empire, they arguably did it through brutal and terroristic means by blowing up the King David Hotel, killing many British officers. So Israel, although it began in conception as a social democracy, as a modern state, has been a strategic bloc for the Jewish people because it has brought attention to the tensions that are in the Middle East. It is also a drain on their resources, their manpower is limited, and they have no resources that the United States or the European Union needs or wants. In many regards, this has been divisive for Jewish people themselves, because the idea which is a National Socialist and anti-Semitic idea, that the Jewish people are one monolithic bloc, is a fallacy. It is false. There is many different competing factions, and as you've seen with the marginalisation of the Labour Party in Israel, the Licudites and the theocracy in Israel, which prevents many Jewish people of different branches of the faith going there, is been divisive. So the solution we need as Europeans and people who are Jewish need is a new state, a second Jewish state in the Horn of Africa, which will begin through chartered cities. So this part is all about solutions to the problem rather than the problem itself, because there are major threats to both Jewish people and to Europeans. I'm a European, and I believe in a moderate pan-European nationalism as a vehicle to give people an acceptable racial interest in European survival. So this video is about European survival as well as the survival of the Jewish people. My primary aim as an Englishman is to bring about social democracy in the Western world and the Western civilization, because I think the Scandinavian social model is the best model, with a social market that produces to the point of maximum social benefit, where there is little wasted through unobtainable surplus, which my viewers will understand, which is the waste created by a capitalist system, which is unobtainable because the price is too high, so it is wasted. Now, as I said before in many of my videos, the way forward is a chartered city solution. That is the creation of cities with their own rules, which have a constitution or a charter where people can flock to those cities, and these cities can be mass produced throughout the third world. And for this, it does not just require European power, which is expansive, and Jewish power, which I would argue is more limited than many people on the right, National Socialists, or the left. It's difficult to put National Socialists in the left or the right. Would argue. They would argue there is a monolithic bloc that is directed at the destruction of Western civilization, which is, in my view, not completely true. There is some truth to it if you're talking about extreme Zionists such as Rabbi Taz, who see all the Western world as anti-Semitic. And these people have access to nuclear weapons, 400 nuclear weapons in Israel. I find it disturbing that that's the case. You imagine if the Bin Ladens had 400 nuclear weapons. The Bin Ladens and the Saudi royal family are one of the threats that I've just spoken about to Jewish people and Europeans of both the United States and the European Union and England. We need to be able to pull our forces and our power to cut into an alliance between pan-European nationalists and moderate Jewish people, because the question of the Holocaust is such a thorny issue for both sides of the argument. That is where the river of hate runs through. But thousands of people on the nationalist side have died as well European nationalist side have died, as well as the 6 million people who died during the Holocaust, and other people around the world, where in China, which is a threat to the United States and the European Union, 1 million people are dying every year. Yet that genocide, which is happening right now, is not being spoken about because it might overshadow the Holocaust. We're doing ourselves a disservice by doing that. The genocide of 1 million people in South Africa, who have been the traditional allies of Israel, the Boers, where 52,000 Boer families have died, that has been ignored. Why? Because it's seen as racist for any European nation to have a racial self-interest, which is, to me, it is immoral that that is the case, and that is an accepted reality of conversation, that any racial self-interest for Europeans is seen as immoral. The reverse is true. It is immoral for other people to say that we have no racial self-interest. The case is that the solution to the problems lies actually in South Africa, which is ironic when you were talking about the issue of racism, because Israel and South Africa cooperated on so many different issues during the apartheid time, and that was not seen as immoral by people in Israel. It was natural. The De Beers Company, when Alfred Biet, who was a Jewish diamond miner, gave his support to the Boers, as well as to the English at various times, he backed both sides so that he'd have a winning horse. That's what businessmen do. But the solution to our problems would lie in a cooperation on the issue of a Southern African Union, an East African Union, and a North African and Middle Eastern Union, all tangential to the European Union, all built out of the building of mass production of chartered cities, which would spread good rules throughout the Third World, and would be a project that would benefit both Europeans and Jewish people, because all the different pillars of Western civilization, of which I would include Jewish people, have science and rationality and the ability to overcome the problems of the Third World. And that's where I would want Jewish people to, if they have any power, to direct their power. If there are Jewish people who are against Europeans, then you need, in your own community, to weed those people out of the political discourse, just as Europeans have weeded out National Socialists. But silencing these people, it may not be enough. We may need to have a discussion which they are included in, and which we can bridge between them, the differences. Because nationalism is in one a unitary idea, but it is also divisive. Beyond nationalism is internationalism, which is a natural step. But we cannot lose our own racial interest as Europeans, and Jewish people cannot lose their racial interest is that they live in Western countries and they only have one Jewish state. So we need to give them a second Jewish state of scale that is gives them ability to survive as a people and thrive and advance themselves. Does that make me a Zionist? I don't believe it does. But I believe I am neutral on this subject. I'm trying to make solutions that benefit European survival and also the survival of the Jewish people. So I am critical, I'm democratic in my criticism. Also, we may, in the fourth part, I will talk about how we may have benefited or been harmed by the element of Jewish power within Western civilization. So see you there.